Hi guys, so I'm going to be taking you down memory lane in my city, down my stomping grounds, where I went to school with, where I began. I think a lot of you here on my channel know a lot about me as Psychic Medium Ray, and if you've ever read my copy of my book, Starseed Footsteps, you may know a little bit about my past, but not necessarily my upbringing and what I had to go through. And so I feel like it's just time to kind of do a vlog, so to speak, and kind of show you behind the scenes of where I grew up and in Victoria, Texas, and where I lived and what happened to me, over time, so that you kind of are more aware of where where it all started. All right. All right, guys. So I'm taking you into where it all began. This is Navarro Street in the city that I'm at, and I'm going to take you slowly through the neighborhoods that I grew up in. So we're like just a few minutes away. This is the south part of town. Literally the poor side of town is what they classify it. Also the historical site. So there's a lot of history here of hangings back in the 1800s. We had a lot of things that went on in the city. Again, a lot of rich history, but also painful history. So these are the streets that my mom and I used to walk all the time as a little child. We would walk all these streets because back in the day when we didn't have a vehicle, there wasn't any public transportation other than taxis, and my mom couldn't afford it as a single parent growing up. So it was very, very difficult to just kind of walk, but we had to walk miles all over. So this is you hear those stories probably told from your grandparents. Oh, back in the day, we used to walk. But no, my mom and myself, we used to walk a lot. All right. So this area that we're approaching is called Under the Hill. It is an area of where there used to be a lot of prostitutes, drug dealers that would be in the middle of the night, literally kind of just there, camping, so to speak, on these streets. And we would have to have our windows kind of all the way up and locked because it was not safe. This whole area just brings back some very, I won't say traumatic, but just very, very painful memories. There are a lot of things that went on, also. So yeah, this is Under the Hill that we're on right now. We're approaching close to my stomping grounds. As you can see, it's kind of, the neighborhood is poor. It is poor. I'm not going to show all of the footage because I'm driving. It's kind of hard to position the camera, but just want you to kind of get an idea of where I lived. And I didn't live too far from my elementary school. This is F.W. Gross Elementary, or F.W. Gross Montessori. It was a Montessori. I'm not sure if it's still a Montessori, but I want you to see that. Can you see that school? It's here we go. So this is where I would, go to school at. And I'll show you as I'm driving back a little bit. But so you can get an area, all this side of town where I grew up in 1998. I was 15 years old, I believe, or almost 16. All of this was basically destroyed by levees that broke, similar to Katrina. We had our Guadalupe River, and all of this area was inundated with almost 15 inches or more of water from the river. And a lot of these homes were just knocked down. There used to be right up here, there was a home that used to belong to the Williams, and it was literally, this is Bottom Street. So as you can see, I think, I want to show my stomping grounds because I think a lot of people have an idea that I grew up in this very, sheltered life, or this, glamorous lifestyle, that I have, I grew up to rich parents, etc. There's a lot of different misconceptions. But I want to show you my stomping grounds. So I'm approaching Grant Street, which is the neighborhood I lived in. As you can see, like all of this is like, it's the boondocks almost. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but it's just like not the most pleasant neighborhood. So this is kind of like where this street takes you all the way back to the main street where I lived in, which was is called Garfield Street. I lived in Garfield Street. There was always like a joke about Garfield the cat. But yeah, no, there's interesting enough, there's like an RV here. But as you can see, like the back part of our property was basically all of this here that you see. It's all like just wooded area, like a wooded area. And so yeah, this is where Ray kind of like grew up. In a minute I'm going to get off so you can see this. I'm going to park right here because it's not too much here. Hold on one second. This apart. And release this. So we're still filming here. So basically this property right here, as you can see, this right here that's vacant, all of this used to be where I lived. It was a mobile home. It's clear the property, but the mobile home was demolished in the flood. They had to like demolish the city. So it's been vacant. All of this used to have homes. All this land right here. There was homes everywhere here, but a lot of paranormal experiences happen here. And it's almost bittersweet when I look at it even years after. Like even back there, like if you see back there was a lot of homes back there. Now there's just like campers and things, but not really anything here. That used to be a cornfield over here, and this used to be like a wooded area. Well, it's still a wooded area, but there used to be homes back over there. So right now I'm just literally, I just showed you where I grew up at and the, you know, the neighborhood that I lived in for 16 years before it was destroyed, and then I had to move to a different location. But yeah, it's very humble origins here. I remember just having to play with the dirt and like leaves and things of that nature. We would go walking through the crops at times. But my mom raised me as a single parent. My parents divorced when I was 4. And my sister, my older sister, she decided to move with her dad once my parents got a divorce. So she was 15 at the time, I believe. But my mom and I went through a lot of struggles. And so I have a lot of empathy for single moms out there, single dads. Single parenting is not easy in the least. I remember there were times here, I wish I could show you. You know, we lived in an older mobile home, only one AC and Texas heat. So literally, it was a fan. And I know that, you know, I'm not complaining because obviously my mom had it worse. She used to live in a ranch where there was no electricity for 18 years that she grew up. And there was just the wells that you have to pump and no electricity. So like I said, she had it really bad. They had outhouses back then, where I was more, you know, privileged in the fact that I had, you know, like toilet and a shower and whatnot. But I remember my mom only got like a fixed income because my dad was disabled. So, her wanting, she did work. She did a lot of like cleaning homes and things of that nature for a long time. So I'm really grateful to her, for all those years that she dedicated to, just making sure that I had a good education. But it was struggles. We were on a fixed income of $300 a month, believe it or not. And it was nothing but less than glamorous. No food stamps because they wouldn't give food stamps to her since she was not working at the time. She had an injury. We had a car accident in 1990. And she injured her back. So basically, she was too young to get a disability, too young to stop working according to the system. And that's how the system plays, So basically, she raised me on the fixed income that we were receiving because of my dad's disability. And it was a very much a struggle of $300 per month to pay all the bills and make sure that I had food and never went without anything. But, slowly things went out in the house, and we had a water heater that went out, and it was just cold water. In the middle of winter, we had to warm buckets up and mix it to take a shower, to take a bath really in the bathtub. In summertime, it wasn't that bad, but that only lasted a couple months before the flood came in October of 1998. But no, it was it's a lot of memories here, a lot of struggles that we went through, as specifically me as a child. This is where I just experienced a lot of growth. Also, I want to say this is like my first place where I feel like I literally kind of like grew up in many ways, almost like my first death experience, like near death experience that I would say I had, because I don't talk about it too much, but it wasn't that I died or had a really near death experience, but I felt death very near, because in 1998 when the levees broke, we didn't evacuate because we didn't expect this to all go down, and it did. And when it did break, the water came up so fast that we didn't know that it was already like covering like half of our mobile homes when we got out. And I didn't know how to swim, so we basically evacuated to this road down here, which is all Garfield. There's two sides. This side that I'm in is a dead end. It just goes to crops, but this side over here opens up to a field that goes back to the school. But I'm going to show you that this part behind me, there was a house that's no longer there. I wish I could show it, but it was a veranda that they had, and basically through that veranda we were able to get up on it. It was elevated high up, and I screamed for help for almost 30 minutes until we were rescued. And some people on a neighborhood that's like more up the hill, this is why we call it under the hill, because as you go where we're at, it's the lowest part of this plateau, of this floodplain, or whatever you want to call it, of the terrain, and then it goes slightly up as you go that way to where these bushes are behind me. And some people from the neighborhoods and that area heard me, and they heard my mom. We were both screaming for help, and that they finally called a rescue boat, and the rescue boat came. The helicopters, we saw them as we were going in the water, but when there's debris and everything is floating, there's animals drowning, which I did get to witness that. It's very sad. I could not save them. I just didn't. I mean, there's just so much that happens. Your adrenaline's pumping. It's almost like you don't know what's really happening. It's shocking. It's traumatic. But I felt in that moment when I was walking through the water with my mom to that veranda, I felt in that moment that I was going to die and I wasn't going to make it, because it's almost like you're surrounded by, and you're so helpless. And it's like the universe reminds us in the grand design of things, like how small we are, here on Earth. And the more bigger role, how powerful Mother Nature is and how destructive it can be. And I remember just seeing brown sludge, whirlpools in the water. It was fairly, like I said, traumatic. But as I'm seeing, sit here in the car, and I'm like looking at, all the old neighborhood that I used to live in. It's like, whatever happened, I always felt like this area was like cursed. And my mom knew that this was going to actually happen, because she's a medium herself. She knew that this flood was going to destroy the neighborhood, or this whole south side of the city, before it happened. She knew like a year before, 2 years before. She had kept telling me this was going to happen. And of course, I didn't really believe at the time. I was very skeptic of my own gifts, even though I grew up with a mother that had gifts herself. I was just very skeptic myself. And then nope, that was validation, the first type of validation for myself, that she was very, very gifted and she could see prophetic things before they happened. But I do believe that this place is cursed, because there was a lot of paranormal experience, demonic things that I did experience here on this property. I believe these woods had a very darkness to it, and just a lot of things that the neighbors would have experienced. Like our neighbors, when I was younger, would tell my mom and my sister, when my sister was still living with us, that when we'd come back from a day at the park or at the beach, we'd come back late at night, and our next door neighbors would tell us they saw lights inside of our mobile home, but my mom didn't leave lights. And I had some other weird experiences here as well. So it's also like, I just feel like this whole area is never going to be rebuilt to a full living situation where people will live here. One, because it's a floodplain, but I also feel like because it has negative energy. There was thoughts of converting this all into a park, because again, there's no life here right now. But I'm gonna turn off this part of the vlog, and I'm gonna kind of pass through my school so you can see where I grew up, the playground, in a better view, because I don't think you got to see all of it. So we're gonna circle that. I'm gonna show you the projects. So like I said, I did not have a glamorous life. I come from the hood. Literally, I'm so lucky I turned out this way. I owe a lot of it to my mom and her upbringing, but to God also, and my angels, and people, good angels and spirit guides that protected me all of my life, even up until now. But yeah, I wish you could see photos of like the 1998 flood. I'm sure if you Google them, you will see them, but it was exactly like Katrina. So when Katrina hit, it really did hit home. I understood what they were going through, being displaced, having to survive for days at a time. Luckily, we were rescued, but some people in Katrina were not fortunate with that. There was days that they were not able to be found, or they had to stay on top of their roofs, if they were lucky. So it's hard. It's very hard when you talk about loss. So I've been homeless twice. This was the first time that I was homeless. The second time is in 2017 when Hurricane Harvey hit the house that we live in now and destroyed it. And for security reasons, etc., I'm not showing where I live now, but I will show you like different parts of the city. My junior high that I went to junior high at, and where I was experiencing most of my bullying, and then my high school as well. So let's get to it. So this that you're looking at right now in the video footage is part of, again, the other side of the school that we're approaching. And as you can see, this is the field. All of this was basically underwater, like I said earlier. So I'm turning here on Depot Street, and so to the left you can see this field. It was a field where we would do like a lot of PE, just a lot of running around, the laps around the, that was basically our track field, although it doesn't look like a track field. So we would use that portion. And then as we're approaching the playground, actually this part of the building, as we're approaching it, I was, had most of my classes, through elementary school in this part of the building, like kindergarten up to like 4th grade. It was in this side of the building, and here's the playground, or the court, basketball court, and then those little gazebos where I would actually like hang out by myself at times, because again, I felt very different than the other children, connecting with my gift, and I would just sit there during recess. But these are the monkey bars, and this is the play area that we're approaching that I used to play. And then, interestingly enough, this building that we're approaching now used to be an all-black high school back in the 60s and 70s, but it was shut down. And then they opened it up, but it was haunted when they renovated and opened it up. This is where I had one of my paranormal experiences, where a cart was pushed at me during gym time, trying to get a volleyball. So again, just a lot of things, that I went through. Now we're approaching close to the projects that were part of very close proximity, where my mom and I would, sometimes pass in the car, at night. It was a very dangerous. This is a street corner. You'd see prostitutes, drug dealers on the corner, and they would actually come close to your window. But these are the projects. This is under the hill. Again, as you go up, as I'm leaving this neighborhood, but to the right is the projects. But as I'm leaving the neighborhood, it goes up. The elevation goes up. And we're now approaching my high school that I used to go to, my middle school. It's called Patty Welder. Experienced a lot of bullying there, but also there was a lot of good academic things that happened, so just keeping it down a little bit. But we are approaching it. Interesting story, in the 80s, this junior high was actually burned. Part of it was burned. This section that you see here is consolidated our high schools. We had 2 high schools. We became a memorial high school, but Stroman, this is the track that I used to have pep rallies on, and our band would practice, and we would walk. This is Stroman. This is my high school. Loved it. Still is standing. I'm going to take you through it so you can see it, but I just don't know if it's there's talk that it has asbestos or something in it, that they're going to demolish it. But literally, this is my high school. Love it. This area right here, it used to be, right here, that building used to be like the drama building. But we literally got an exercise because everything was like 4 or 5 flights of stairs. And this is what it looks like. Hope you can see it. This was the main office right here. And then we had a lot of classrooms up there. I'm not sure if they're actually using it still. I think they are part of it. But this is the high school. Those are the corridors. Again, I had classes there, chemistry on this side, and also keyboarding. Like, we did keyboarding, chemistry, and then the center building is like where we had more of our math. But yeah, this is Stroman. And these are the tennis courts that we used to play tennis, which is like almost like half a mile maybe, or not even a third of a mile away from the high school. But that's where we would actually play tennis. I remember that. This is the cemeteries that we're approaching. When I was younger, this was one of my first paranormal experiences, was going to the cemetery with my mom, visiting it, and just hearing our names called. So this is basically parts of the cemetery. But I'm approaching the one that we actually heard our name called out on. Called Evergreen Cemetery, which is the cemetery we heard our name called out on. It's this one right here. One of the oldest ones, dates back to like the 1800s, 1700s. As you can see, we're going to approach it. I'm going to actually drive in so you can see. So this right here is where we were called. I'm trying to remember the location. It was somewhere back over here in that area. There used to be a bench. We had sat down for a moment, again visiting, and we heard our names called out. My name is Raymond. And my mom and I, we both looked at each other, and we heard it through our ears, not through the mind, but it was actually through our ears. But yeah, this is kind of like the cemetery. Kind of gives you an eerie vibe. You go down. But I've always felt like this cemetery has a lot of activity. Just a lot of activity. But I just wanted to show you, you know, places where I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, where I grew up, how I grew up, you know, where I went to school. So kind of know me a little bit better now, I feel like, if you're looking at this as my ray of light. Yeah, there's a lot. There was a spirit of a man who was a soldier who many years ago kind of led me to his grave, because he was trying to cross over, and I'm approaching it right now. It's interesting because I'm not sure if you saw that, but our footage, as I approached here, it just went wonky. It froze up and it cut off, and I didn't even do anything. But that's right here. That's kind of like where his tomb is. Tombstone has his photo on there as well. But no, literally, as I got in here, like I said, as I was filming the footage, you know, it's not normal. It's not abnormal for like camera equipment to go, you know, freeze up or like just stop working. But yeah, literally, that just happened. So let's head out of here. Well, guys, that was pretty much the ending of this video. I hope that you enjoyed seeing some of my stomping grounds. I'll be doing more vlogs talking about things, as well as like, you know, maybe even like trying new beauty products and skincare here, plus talking about paranormal celebrities everything under the sun. So stay tuned. Bye, guys.